What's up, guys? This is Doctore, and welcome to another episode of the FPL Fantasy. In this episode, we will discuss James' replacement and the possible double game weeks incoming. Of course, I cannot do this without Joe. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great. I actually am really excited to talk about some James replacements. As you know, I've been trying so hard to get him out of my team for feels like since I got him into my team with all of his ones and his zeros. And he had an 8 and a 6. I was ecstatic. Now he's back to good old ones and zeros. Prepping for the double game weeks. It's going to be critical for the season, especially with so many blanks.
And of course, Joe came prepared with a proof that football is not played on grass, neither on spreadsheet. Football is played on paper, as you can see, paper and a pen, the old-fashioned way, the OG way. So, Joe, who are you thinking? What possible replacements we have for James?
Well, I think one of the most obvious sets of replacements for James is actually Regulon from Spurs. I think he's a great option. If you wanted a little bit of a Spurs differential, you could maybe look at Davis or like Royale. Both of them would be fantastic. Even though Royale's the wing, I feel like Davis has had a lot of good opportunities within the box there and has really been. Some other shoutouts that I thought about was actually a defender from Brighton. I was thinking Cucurella. He's actually performed really well this year. He's pulled out a couple pretty decent hauls. He performed really well against Chelsea, and I don't think it's a crazy shout out. We'll see when we look at the double game weeks that Uncle Ben posted on Twitter in a minute or two. That Brighton, yeah, they have some tough fixtures, but they're not necessarily impossible. What are you thinking, Doc?
Before we get into it, I've tweeted a tweet today that shows how many games teams played and the teams with the fewest games played. On that tweet, we have Burnley with 16 games, Tottenham, Everton, and Watford with 17. So I'll be kind of targeting those teams because they are the most likely to have a double game week. But also, I'll depend, of course, on Uncle Ben's spreadsheets. And Uncle Ben's spreadsheets show us few things, right? I want to stress one important thing. Do not make an early transfer this week because we might get a double game week announcement before the deadline. We will probably will according to Ben, but it's never guaranteed, but it's better to wait as long as possible because you never know who's going to get a double game week. However, Ben thinks it's likely that Watford will get two double game weeks, 21 and 22, so I'll be looking at Watford options, right? But Watford do not really have good options in defense. So it's either going to be King or almost nobody else unless Dennis stays and doesn't go to the AFCON. Yes, I knew you were going to say something about that. Also, I looked at Burnley. I like the Burnley shout. So Burnley might have a two double game weeks. And the main games are Leeds and Leicester. So they're kind of attacking teams. So I'm not going to be happy owning a defender from Burnley, although they have very nice fixtures. Maybe from the attacking point of view, Chris Wood might be a great differential. So I'll be really depending on the spreadsheet. The most person who appeals to me currently at this moment is Matty Cash from Aston Villa, because in game week 21 they have Brentford and Burnley or Leeds. And he's very attacking and he passes the eye test. I like how he's playing. So Matty Cash is an option. If you want to say who's your second option at the moment, I would say a Tottenham player, and it's between Emerson or Davies, because Emerson guaranteed more minutes than Reguilon so far. And Davies has great minutes as well. Although Emerson Royal has more attacking threat, the statistics show that, even per 90. However, Davies always ends up in good positions each match. You can see him almost scoring at least once each match. So I like Davies' option as well, and Davies is cheaper. So if I had to recommend a James replacement, it's going to be either a Tottenham player or Matty Cash. So a Tottenham player will either be Emerson or Davies. What do you think about that, Joe?
I like the idea of going for Matty Cash. Another option that I'm curious to see what you think in the exact same vein is actually Target. I feel like he's been a pretty decent player. He's kind of been all over the field. Matty Cash is the popular option, but Target could be a good punt that could maybe pull a point or two more. Spurs have a million fixtures that they need to make up, so a Spurs defender is always great. To be fair, I wouldn't go Reece because I think there's a higher ceiling in the actual defense rather than the defensive line as a whole. Watford, I would like to say, Big Man tweeted that right now, because of the positioning of Dennis, he has a higher XG. So XG people, get on board, get him in. He's trying to get everybody points. Do I think that they're going to have a triple game week in 21? Probably not. The one thing that I want to mention about Ben's stats that he gives out to everyone, he spent ridiculous amounts of time every year.
And imagine the panic in the community when we don't see Ben Crennan's spreadsheet before a double game week. Yeah, he's literally the father of the whole FPL managers.
Yeah, I think it would be the downfall of FPL. The game would be ruined then. The one thing that I want to mention about Ben's stuff, he has it on his spreadsheet, what the colors mean. And I was losing my mind every time he releases it. Somebody would say something like, Burnley as example. Hey, Ben, how likely is Burnley to have a double game week in 21? It says it right there. 80 to 100%. And once again, Uncle Ben, just the absolute, the saint, the savior. He goes, well, I feel like it's extremely likely. I'm like, I would have lost my mind. I would have been like, look at the top, man. Ben's a great guy. He has all the data that we need. Obviously, for the most part, they're predictions. Nothing has been officially confirmed by FPL. But for my sanity, people, just look at the key. If the key doesn't say it, then ask Ben. All right, I'm off my soapbox.
Of the rant. Stop looking at the replies then, Joe. You're asking me what I think about Target over Cash. I think I see the point of it. Target sometimes takes corners. He's very high up, but also there is the back of my mind that Steven Gerrard used to coach Tavernier, and Tavernier was basically the right back of Rangers. And he was always scoring goals and he was always involved. So it's kind of the Matty Cash of Gerrard. So that's why I kind of leaning towards Matty Cash. And also there is less rotation risk with Matty Cash because Target has Ashley Young and a couple of other players can replace him. But Matty Cash is more of a guaranteed minute. So I would pay a bit more just to get Matty Cash. Yes, I understand the punt and it can be high risk, high reward punt. But I have my eyes set on Matty Cash. And speaking of the double game weeks, I think I have a spine in my head that I would like to recommend to our viewers, who to get and who not to get. Kind of the spine that I'm trying to target in my transfers to get to. My team is well set up and I like my team. However, I feel like I'm a bit lagging behind at this point. So I'm trying to get Son in at one point and Bowen. So a midfield of Bowen, Son, Foden maybe, although he doesn't have the double game week, but he has a huge upside whenever he plays. Jota has to be there, Trent has to be there, because when the double game week happens in 22, there will be in demand. You have Antonio, Watkins for next week is an option. So if you look at Ben Crennan's spreadsheet, you kind of want to target the teams that have a lot of double game weeks coming up, especially the ones that their teams are depending on. So for me personally, for my team, you can see I'm missing Son and Bowen mostly. I'm probably going to get Matty Cash or maybe Emerson Royal or Ben Davies this week. So it will be probably a -4 for me, maybe a -8 if I really want to push it. But I'm going to have this spine for the double game weeks, and I think the -4 will pay off, especially for Heung-min Son and especially for Bowen in the long term. Bowen has phenomenal fixtures and phenomenal double game weeks coming. So I recommend you just go to the transfer page and have a spine of players that you really want in your team and try to get them in within the next 2 game weeks.
Yeah, I think that we're kind of sitting in the same vein as far as what we're thinking for transfers. I have a little bit of a different approach that I'm looking at for my team. We had talked about this previously to this video. We definitely feel like Son is a necessity. Obviously, the Spurs are playing much better. They're looking much more attacking. They're looking clean and tight defensively, which is great. That's what we want to see. That's what we've been expecting. Conte is doing it for the Spurs. I am definitely looking at getting in Son. I already have Bowen. Once again, going back to replacing James, I'm probably looking at replacing him with Reguilon. We have a reset on our yellows. Not as worried about Reggie. My last transfer, I am thinking about taking out Tony. Now, Brentford has a decent run. Tony still looks off. So who I'm looking at bringing in for Tony, I have 2 options. I'm looking to bring in Broya. That's the one that I sent over to you, Doc. And I feel like he could possibly be a good option. I'm probably not going to start him directly into the team, but I feel like coming off the bench for me, it might be a viable option to have him kind of just be a bench spot that has potential to score, has potential to assist, but isn't necessarily going to be my go-to, oh yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo, who is this guy? Put him on the bench, get my man Broya in. He's going to score for me. Unless he becomes a king. There is room always for more kings. But right now, he's a bench guy for me. The second option that I'm looking at is a little bit of a wild card. I think I'll probably be the one and only person to bring him in this week. Gelhardt from Leeds. Leeds have a million fixtures. Looking at our double game week analysis, yeah, it's kind of unlikely that they're going to have something for 21, but it's much more probable that they could have a double in 22. Potential.
Those matches are against West Ham plus either Liverpool or Aston Villa, so I don't think it's the easiest run to have Gelhardt.
Yes, but I'm not necessarily bringing him in for that double game week potential. I'm freeing up some cap space. I'm having somebody that seems, at least right now, an apparent starter, and he's energetic. He gets in the box. He got 2 fouls in the box in the last 2 games that he's played, resulted in penalties. Once again, he's going to look very much like Broya, where I'm not probably ever going to start him unless they have a super simple fixture, but he might be that 1 or 2 slot on my bench, where if he comes in, great. I wouldn't be mad to own him. I'm also going in owning him with the realization he is a 4.6 forward, but he is one of the best options that you have around that price range. What do you think, Doc?
I think if you're not expecting him to enter your team tall, then you might as well go for someone cheaper, 4.4, 4.5. I don't think he's a good option to have him in your team, especially with Bamford. While you were speaking, I kind of tried to figure out when Bamford is back, and Bamford is back quite soon. So I don't think it's a great option to have. You might as well go for Broya and chase the upside of him. He will play most of the matches and he play a lot of minutes. He definitely comes off the bench every once in a while. So I think if you have the cash, go for Broya to cover any benchings. If not, just go for 4.4, 4.5. I don't like the strategy of going 4.4, 4.5 nowadays with all those postponements, so it's better to have a strong bench. So if you ask me in isolation, who do you prefer between Broya and Gelhardt, I'll tell you Broya, because Gelhardt might get you 0 minutes for 4 or 5 game weeks. And whenever you need him the most, you just not get their points. I like Broya from a footballing point of view, not an FPL point of view. He's a clinical finisher. He's a very great dribbler. He's fast on the ball. I really like watching him play. So I like Broya among those 2 options.
Yeah, and I think that's a viable opinion. I'm probably still up in the air. I understand that Broya is going to be more of that locked-in guy, and especially when Bamford comes back, you have issues there. But I love the kid. The kid, he's just fun to watch, and he's exciting. And I don't know if it's because he's so young. I'm just like, I'm rooting for him. I'm out there. I'm like, yes, Leeds, at least
We
stay
all are.
up.
We all are.
Yeah. It's going to be a difficult decision between the 2. Probably leaning Broya right now, but I want to try and plan out some future transfers also and see if there's a 0.6 that can be used better someplace else. If not, Broya is probably the guy. He's probably coming in. Those are my transfers that I'm thinking about in my head. We'll see how it pans out. We'll see what happens at the deadline. Obviously, there's just over 48 hours till the next game week's deadline. So anything can happen. We'll see. We'll get there. We'll figure it out and make decisions from that point on.
So Joe, those were very valid points. Again, let's wait until the deadline, as close to the deadline as possible, to make our transfers. But for now, to summarize, wait for the deadline. James replacements, there are many, but personally I prefer Matty Cash or Emerson Royal or Ben Davies, and then have a spine for the double game weeks. Follow us on Twitter, follow Ben Krillin on Twitter to know the latest double game weeks and the latest postponements. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please drop a like, follow us, subscribe. That really helps us out for future episodes. Joel, thank you for being here. Thank you for your opinions as usual, and we'll see everybody on the next episode.
Yep, we'll see you everybody. Till next time. Peace.
Bye bye.